Welcome to One Woman, Three Views. We'll talk about sex, gender, social class, politics, education, even religion. Welcome to the One Woman, Three Views podcast. This is your host, Sandra, and today's question is, do roles for men and women vary by generation?
I think that the roles are very similar between men and women. The expectations, actually, that does differ from generation to generation. I think that our desires for women to be women and men to be men, the manly man, the woman who takes care of the kids in the home, the man who goes out and works and different things of that nature. I think the desire for that is still prevalent now, although the realisticness of it all doesn't exist because now everybody truly has to work to sustain the household. But I believe that the roles have always been the same. The desire for those roles have always remained the same, even though we live in a different time and different era. That need for that nurturing thing that women have is still there. And I think that some of the problems that people have in relationships is that they're trying to get away from what we consider traditional values and have more where they say everybody is kind of 50-50, and all of that. But in realisticness, when it gets right down to it, the men want to be the gatherers and the hunters and all of that, and they want a woman still who is willing to take care of them, take care of the home and everything else, not necessarily being unemployed, but that feeling, that same sentiment of being cared for, I think is still there.
I would say for me, the roles have definitely have changed from generation to generation. For the simple fact is that when you begin to look at how the family structure was, like you said, in the beginning of the 50s and 60s, the woman was placed in a home. Not to say that she wasn't able to work. That was just the formality of how it was supposed to be. The woman is the helpmate. She is to partake of taking care of the home, helping the husband out in whatever discretionary that it might be for the home. The kids, making sure that they're dressed, make sure that they're properly dressed, getting them off to school, whatever activities that they had back then. Now you come to the generation of now. It is specifically of where the roles have definitely reversed, and you've seen it on plenty of social media where you'll have the man at home, where he works from home and he's there with the kids. He's there doing what the woman in the past have done. And it is because of you look at the financial income of it, how you base it off now. Women nowadays is basically where they're taking 5% of their income because they're getting paid more than what some men are in their particular field, whatever it might be. Where they're now, the husband is like, hey, you go out, you work, I'll stay at home. And the man is at home. He's doing he's being domesticated in home, where the woman is actually out in the field. She's working every day. She's doing what the men had done in the past. So when you look at the generations from then to now, the roles are so dynamically diverse, where women have become so independent that they look at it and go, well, don't really need a man in my life if I have to do A, work hard, B, I'm paying all my bills, so why do I need this man in my life? But when you really look at it on a true generational level from the past, from, I'll say my generation, the man is still going to be the head of the household, regardless of if he's at home, working from home, or if he's actually at work. Then you see the combativeness between the male and female. And the problem for me that I look at is that you have so many independent women that feel, I'm independent, I can pay my this, I can do that. Why the man is standing out there still saying, I'm in search of So when you begin to look at once you begin to look at that format of that independent woman stating, I don't need this, you're basically destroying what the generations before us have already established. Regardless of the fact of how your stature is, whatever your financial income is, everybody needs somebody. And and I say, and I know I'm speaking in a biblical terminology, a man needs a helpmate. A woman still needs someone for that security, regardless of whatever income bracket that you're in. You still need to have that protection, that man, that comfort to be significant enough for your home. So when you begin to look at the generational gaps, you can look through social media, reality TV, which I call ratchet TV, but it still gives you a general idea of exactly how far of a gap that was left from one generation to the next. So once you begin to sit back and look at it, then you understand that desire, that pure desire of happiness has to come back from the past to the present. And that's where I'm starting to see where we have complications at with that. Is that our younger generation has no idea what it's like to have that head, that helpmate, that confidence at home. Once you break all of that away from everything, you lose a lot of potential growth for the future.
I want to touch base on that and say that from a generational point, the household started to totally become destroyed during the 90s. Once crack cocaine hit the streets, it destroyed families, and that's of all races. So where you had a two household family, a lot of people were either going to jail, dying, getting hooked on other drugs, a lot of different things that came to that. So then you have these young people that are now grown that grew up starting either in a household home or single parent home to pretty much having to almost raise themselves. So that structure is not there to pass on. So for generations, dating back as far as history goes, the wife was predominantly in the home if you could afford it, or you both worked, but it was still the wife was expected to maintain the household and also teach the children how to maintain the household. The man worked, however, he still brought his sons along to show them how he did their work. Whether it was a businessman, that the son had to work in the office with the father. If he was a carpenter, you right alongside of me making these tables, making, this woodwork. Whatever that was, it was passed on from generation to generation. Somehow between that gap, not just due to, addiction, but also the American dream became so important financially and economically of, oh, we want the same as others. We want to be found equal. That once we were able to make that money, we stopped bringing our sons to work with us. We stopped teaching our daughters how to be mothers, nurturers, home takers. We started to actually look down on the things that was passed on from generation to generation because it was now beneath us. Now we have Molly the maid. I don't need to teach you how to cook and clean. You have plated. You have home chef. You have blue apron. You don't even need to know how to cook. I just have to teach you how to read. And now you don't even need to know how to tell time because everything's digital. You just got to know how to count, to pay for that Apple Watch, to pay for that smartwatch. You don't even know have to say where the tin hand is anymore. At this point, it'll just tell you, Siri, what time is it? Oh, it's such and such a clock. So going back into the point at hand, as far as the generational gap, even in fashion, men are wearing skirts, dresses, high heels, and not even just now. Prince wore booty out pants and heels and rocked them. So the generational gap has already switched years before now. Now it's just accepted that a man can rock a skirt and his wife can be in pants with a fitted cap. And there's nothing wrong with that. The guy has on the skinny jeans where you can see everything, even his thoughts in his pockets. So it becoming the woman stereotype of you are now in the home, there is no structure there. It's whatever you want it to be. You can end up adopting 12 kids by yourself on some Angelina Jolie type thing and raising them by yourself, then get married. So even the structure of marriage, children, family first, no, it's babies or career, then a baby, then marriage, if I so choose. The structure has left the foundation of our homes, and it may vary whether it's religion, culture, things like that, but it already was destroyed. So being pieced together by a broken generation.
That's the one thing that I would agree with you, and that's how. And there was a prior conversation that I had. To me, the generation now, what we're looking at now, I call it the microwave age. For the simple fact is that everything that they have in front of them is instant. They don't have to go to. You don't have to go to a library to learn how to go through the index cards like we had to go through, where you had to literally know what 0.100. You're looking at about 7 numbers just to find one book that's in the same spot where you're standing at. But you had to know how to look at the index card, know exactly what you're looking at, go to the section, pull it out. Now you can go to your phone, Siri, Google, Arthur John Davis, book of Forever World. Bam, you have it. They have it right then and there. They don't. And for me, I would say, when you look at that and you go, you can ask a kid right now, have you ever done a book report? The first thing they're going to ask is, what is a book report? They've taken out cursive writing in the schools. They've done so much to where you look at this generation, everything is basically handed to them through technology, through the home, single parent homes, even the homes that have the mother and the father in the houses. And that's why I was saying that as everything is structured, it has become microwavable. And for me personally, as a male, I would want to know I am the head of my household. I'm going out. I'm putting in those 16, 18 hours, sometimes 24 hours, where I'm at work. I would love to have a helpmate that is at home, that's taking care of the home. Where if there's something that I need, that need is being met. Just as if I'm off that day and she's off at work, I want to make sure that need is met. But as everything that stands in front of us is microwavable, it's got to be instant. It has to be here. It has to be right now. I can't wait 5 minutes to find out information. I have to have it right here, right now. So as we're looking at the generations, I'll say the generation before me elevated the game for me, which was, this is how a man is going to be, top to bottom. This is how a woman is supposed to be, top to bottom. Now you look at the roles and you look at from their generation to my generation to the generation after me, and I go, that generation behind me will never know what it's like to have a male or female figure in the household that is an inspiration to say, this is how I want to have my household to be. For my generation, we can try to teach and build that stability in the next generation, but as they're sitting there and they're looking at everything in front of them, we've lost a lot of traditional values. And once you begin to lose that traditional values, as a father, mother, or husband and wife partnership, it becomes that traditional values. What do you carry over to teach that generation behind you? Some have tried to maintain that stability of trying to teach what they've learned in the past to present, but when they get around their friends and they're seeing the things that we can only imagine that we're not around, they're hearing and seeing things differently than what we had to. So when it comes down to it, it is, I can teach my child my traditions, I can teach you my values, but they still have their own personal lives that they're going to try to make their lives fit in to a structure of what's important to those that surround them. And once we're able to really basically break it down to saying, hey, and this is something I'll say, an old traditional saying, if your friends jumped off a bridge, you gonna jump too? For me, I'm like, if you jump, what color do you want me to wear? That's all I need to know. But now this generation is like, oh, Bob jumped or Billy jumped over the rail, and I just wanted to see what it was like. Well, now Bob, Billy, and them are all gone. So you can't replace that. So it's like that traditional value setting has to come from somewhere. Even though we can try to install it, their I'm not going to call it peer pressure, but their stability of their friendship and what they see is going to be the outcome for them.
Well, I'll say so. From a generational standpoint, you have the baby boomers that represent the grandparents. Then you also have I believe they call it Generation X, which is our mothers and fathers. Then you have millennials. So I would say from just the aspect of looking in, baby boomers had a set of way of cooking, living, and a structure that was passed on from the baby boomer to the mother and father. I feel the ball ended up dropping when the mother and father decided that at some point that the quality of life was not balanced and they wanted more. So the fight for more came and we overcame. So once they were able to overcome being a homemaker, not because you wanted to, but because financially you had to, but then it became, okay, I don't have to be a homemaker. And they don't understand that the mother from those eras didn't necessarily have to either. Once World War II happened, the mother broke tradition of being the homemaker and was the mother and the father. And some fathers did not return. I feel that dynamic, as far as America was concerned, changed the way the structure became. So now you have an option. Women were choosing to either stay or to go to work. Men came back and said, oh, you can stay in the house. And they said, no, 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 no. I got this. You just find out what you're going to do with your life. So that changed the structure from that era. So generationally, you now have this mother and father who say, my mom ended up staying at home, but then she ended up working. So you have that same option. So by the time it got to a millennial, all you have seen is your mother and father working. And the thing is, they're not passing this type of trait down as it was in generations before. Generations before, as I stated, if your father was a carpenter, you became a carpenter. You did not become a judge. That just didn't make any sense. You were your father's child, so you followed suit. The moment that stopped being the case is, I feel, where the structure changed in the home. When a child can say, I don't want to be a homemaker. I don't even want children. And you can say that as a man or a woman. I think that's when it altered how the household was ran.
I've never seen so many individuals, male or female, that brag about not being able to cook or clean or wash and iron. These are basic survival skills, no matter if you're male or female. And I've never seen so many people who just don't have those skills. And I look at my generation and say, how do we fail our children? And I think I do agree with you in our quest to have the American dream. I think we sacrificed our children to have it.
I want to thank my guest, Michelle. I want to thank my guest, Racy. And as always, you are listening to the One Woman, Three Views podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Also, tune in to the after hours special of this episode. You're going to love it. See you then.